Hello everyone, you are watching the 5th video in a Bible study video series. In this video we will go through Genesis chapter 5 all the way through to Genesis chapter 6 verse 8. Beginning in chapter 5 it says, "This is the book of the generations of Adam. In the day that God created man, in the likeness of God made he him. Male and female created he them, and blessed them, and called their name Adam in the day when they were created. And Adam lived 130 years, and begat a son in his own likeness, after his image, and called his name Seth. And the days of Adam after he begat Seth were 800 years, and he begat sons and daughters. And all the days that Adam lived were 930 years, and he died." The only thing I want to point out here is that this chapter refers to the line of Seth, not Cain. There are some names that sound similar or are the same in Seth's line and Cain's line, but most of them have different meanings and they're all in a different order. This genealogy in chapter 5 shows without a doubt that Cain not only was exiled from the land his father lived in, but was also disinherited. Usually, Cain would have been the one whose lineage was traced, because he was the firstborn. Actually, that's probably why a short list of his descendants is given in chapter 4, probably as an honorable mention because he was the firstborn. Of course, he wasn't the firstborn in Adam or Eve's eyes. Not anymore. Continuing on in verse 6, it says, "And Seth lived 105 years, and begat Enoch. And Seth lived after he begat Enoch 807 years, and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Seth were 912 years, and he died." Continuing on in verse 9, it says, "And Enoch lived 90 years, and begat Kenan. And Enoch lived after he begat Kenan 815 years, and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Enoch were 905 years, and he died." The name Kenan, though I'm probably not pronouncing it correctly, means fixed according to Strong, and he says that it comes from a word that means nest, but can also mean dwelling. Continuing on in verse 12 it says, "And Kenan lived 70 years, and begat Mahalalel. And Kenan lived after he begat Mahalalel 840 years, and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Kenan were 910 years, and he died." Strong says that the name Mahalalel means, quote, "praise of God." Continuing on in verse 15 it says, "And Mahalalel lived 65 years, and begat Jared. And Mahalalel lived after he begat Jared 830 years, and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Mahalalel were 895 years, and he died." Jared's name means to descend. I wonder if his name has anything to do with man growing more and more evil, or if it has to do with a physical descent, maybe to a lower land than Eden. Continuing on in verse 18 it says, "And Jared lived 162 years, and begat Enoch. And Jared lived after he begat Enoch 800 years, and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Jared were 962 years, and he died." Jared's son Enoch had the same name as Cain's firstborn. His name is connected to the idea of being instructed. It seems that some people confuse Enoch, son of Cain, with Enoch, son of Jared. Just like people today, some of Adam's descendants had the same name. Enoch, son of Cain, had a city named after him in the land of Nod, but Enoch, son of Jared, who must have been much younger than Cain's son, was the one taken by God when he was 365 years old. Continuing on in verse 21 it says, "And Enoch lived 65 years, and begat Methuselah. And Enoch walked with God after he begat Methuselah 300 years, and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Enoch were 365 years. And Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him." Methuselah's name means, quote, "man of a dart." Enoch, son of Jared, was one of the only two people who are recorded in Scripture as not dying, but being taken up by God instead. It's also worth mentioning that Enoch was taken when he was 365 years old, while all of Enoch's forefathers were still alive, except for Adam. In verse 23 it continues, "And Methuselah lived 187 years, and begat Lamech. And Methuselah lived after he begat Lamech 782 years, and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Methuselah were 969 years, and he died." Continuing on in verse 28 it says, "And Lamech lived 182 years, and begat a son. And he called his name Noah, saying, This same shall comfort us in our work and in the toil of our hands, which cometh because of the ground which Jehovah hath cursed. And Lamech lived after he begat Noah 595 years, and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Lamech were 777 years, and he died. And Noah was 500 years old, and Noah begat Shem, Ham, and Japheth." Noah's name means rest. Shem's name is connected to the idea of honor. Ham's name means hot, and Japheth's name means, quote, "to open," unquote, or expansion. Moving over to chapter 6, verse 1 begins, "And it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the ground, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men that they were fair, and they took them wives of all that they chose." Then, in the next paragraph, verse 3 continues, "And Jehovah said, My spirit shall not strive with man forever, for that he also is flesh. Yet shall his days be 120 years. Young translates this verse 3, like this, "And Jehovah saith, My spirit doth not strive in man, to the age. In their erring they are flesh, and his days has been 120 years. The footnotes for the American Standard Version suggest this alternative reading. "And Jehovah said, My spirit shall not rule in man forever, for in their going astray they are flesh. Therefore shall his days be 120 years. It's interesting. Strong says that the Hebrew word translated in verse 3 as flesh is connected to the idea of nakedness. Adam and Eve became aware of their nakedness when they sinned in the Garden of Eden. I wonder if God meant that he would shorten man's lifespan to around 120 years. Maybe this shows that man's long life allowed wickedness to increase more than it could today. Verse 4 begins a new paragraph. "The Nephilim were in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them. The same were the mighty men that were of old, the men of renown. And Jehovah saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually." And then I believe that verse 6 begins another paragraph. "And it repented Jehovah that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him at his heart. And Jehovah said, I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the ground, both man and beasts, and creeping things, and birds of the heavens, for it repenteth me that I have made them. The Hebrew word translated in verse 4 as mighty men means, quote, powerful, by implication, warrior, tyrant. This is the same word that was used to describe David and his men in 1 Samuel chapter 16 verse 18, 2 Samuel chapter 16 verse 6, and in 2 Samuel chapter 23 verse 8. I'll let you look those verses up yourself if you want to. The Hebrew word translated as repented in verse 6 means, quote, to sigh, i.e., breathe strongly, by implication, to be sorry. This is the same Hebrew word that God used when he told Balaam what to tell Balak, when Balak hired Balaam to curse Israel. The account of this event can be found in Numbers chapter 23. Again, I'll let you look that up yourself if you'd like to. Finally, verse 8 says, but Noah found favor in the eyes of Jehovah. Some people believe that this chapter, Genesis chapter 6, briefly recounts how fallen angels came to earth and married human women. I have heard claims that this was the reason for the flood, and that giants today and in ancient times are the offspring of these fallen angels. I've written an article on my website that tries to go through possible explanations for Genesis chapter 6 verses 1 through 8. The article, which is called Sons of God, Daughters of Men, can be found under the Topical Guide section.